Hi everyone, welcome to Canbaby Surrogacy. This is Ethan. I'm a senior embryologist based in North America, and we specialize in affordable surrogacy solutions. If you are considering your options, feel free to reach out for us for a consultation. Today I want to talk about a very practical question in IVF. Is there a simple way to maximize the success rate of one IVF cycle based on the conditions you already have? The answer is yes. And the method is actually very simple. After your embryos are created in this IVF cycle, freeze all of them first, not some of them, all of them. Then, when the timing and medical conditions are better, store the embryos and transfer them back into the uterus. In simple words, for many patients, a frozen embryo transfer can give a higher pregnancy rate than doing a fresh embryo transfer immediately after egg retrieval. Now, I know this sounds strange at first. Many people will ask, wait a minute, if you freeze the embryo and then store it later, doesn't that hurt the embryos? Isn't a fresh embryo supposed to be better? This is a very normal question, and actually, your common sense is not wrong. Freezing and storing can cause some stress to the embryo, but the key point is that the modern embryo freezing technology has improved dramatically over the past decades. Today, in a mature IVF laboratory, embryo survival after storing is extremely high. In many good IVF labs, the survival rate after freezing and storing is above 99%. So yes, freezing is not completely harmless, but with modern vitrification technology, the damage is usually very small. If an IVF clinic today has a noticeable no frozen embryo survival rate, in my opinion, that usually suggests a problem with the lab technique or quality control. So that is the first reason frozen embryo transfer has become so important. The freezing and the thawing process itself is now very safe when done properly. The second reason is even more important. In IVF, whether we use conventional ovarian stimulation or mild stimulation, the basic idea is the same. We use external hormones to stimulate multiple follicles to grow in the same menstrual cycle. Then we retrieve the eggs, fertilize them in the lab, and create embryos. But here's the problem. During this process, the woman's body is not always in the best condition for implantation. The stimulation hormones, the changes in estrogen and progesterone, and sometimes the medication used to control ovulation can all affect the uterine environment. In some patients, the endometrium may not be thick enough. Some may have fibroids, some may have abnormal progesterone levels, some may simply need more time for the body to recover after stimulation. If you transfer a fresh embryo immediately in that same cycle, the embryo may be good, but the uterus may not be ready. And this is a key point many patients don't understand. IVF success is not only about embryo quality, it is also about timing and the uterine environment. A good embryo placed into the poorly prepared uterus may still fail, but if we freeze all the embryos first, we get time. We can wait for the hormone levels to return to normal. We can prepare the lining properly. We can treat uterine problems if needed. We can choose the best possible timing for implantation. Then, when the endometrial, hormones, and the overall uterine conditions are more suitable, we store the embryo and transfer it back. That is why frozen embryo transfer can often produce better implantation and pregnancy rates than fresh embryo transfer. To be clear, freezing does not make the embryo stronger. It does not magically improve the embryo quality. What it does is allow us to avoid transfer the embryo into a bad or unstable uterine environment. In other words, freezing gives us control, and in IVF, control matters. This is not just a theory. Around the world, many IVF clinics now see a better implantation rate and pregnancy rate with frozen embryo transfer compared with fresh embryo transfer, especially in patients whose bodies were affected by stimulation or whose uterine conditions were not ideal at the time of egg retrieval. The reason is simple. With frozen embryo transfer, we can separate embryo creation from the embryo transfer. First, we focus on making embryos. Then later, we focus on preparing the uterus. That separation gives doctors and embryologists more flexibility and gives the patient a better chance. So if someone asks me, What is one of the simplest ways to maximize the success rate of a single IVF cycle under existing conditions? My answer would be consider freezing all embryos first and transfer later when the body is truly ready. Of course, every patient is different. There are still cases where fresh transfer may be appropriate, but in many modern IVF situations, especially when hormone levels are high, the lining is not ideal, or we need genetic testing, freeze all embryos and transfer in later is often the smarter strategy. And let me say this directly, if a clinic's overall frozen embryo transfer pregnancy rate is consistently lower than its fresh embryo transfer pregnancy rate, I would personally want to look very carefully at that clinic's lab quality, freeze technique, sorting technique, and transfer protocol. Because in a mature IVF center, frozen embryo transfer should perform very well. So the main message today is this: don't think of a frozen embryo transfer as a backup plan. In modern IVF, frozen embryo transfer is often a planned strategic decision to improve timing, improve the uterine environment, and increase the chance of pregnancy. Alright, that's all for today's episode of Canbaby Surrogacy. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. And if you are exploring IVF or affordable surrogacy options, feel free to contact us for a consultation. I will see you until next video. Bye.